Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos, and in today's video we have a round of class tuning coming on next reset, so the 12th or something, which affects quite a few different classes. So there's two posts, one of which is a PvE tuning post, and one of which is a PvP tuning post. Within each post, there are some notes that say stuff like does not affect PvP combat, and then some that don't say that. So we're actually going to look at the PvP tuning as well, although this is primarily going to be a video focused on the PvE side, because I think some of the changes in that post will affect PvE as well. But this is the PvE post, so first off, let's take a look at the justification. As always, we've closely monitored data on class performance as well as player feedback. With all of that in mind, we've developed the following adjustments to classes that are over and underperforming in group content and PvP. These changes will go into effect with scheduled weekly maintenance in each region. Okay, so this paragraph doesn't have anything specifically justifying any changes right now or anything. This is this language we see almost every time here, so nothing extraordinary there. Up first, we have Resto Druid, who are taking a 12% healing increase to Rejuve. I think this is a good thing to target in the kit. Currently, the Rejuve button is barely worth pressing on Resto Druid, which is a weird place to be. I think I've played Resto Druid on and off. Actually, my first ever character was a Resto Druid back in TBC, and so I played a lot of Resto Druid over the years, and Rejuve is one of the buttons that I have like the fondest memories of, and it feels really weird this time around that, you know, it's one of the buttons that you can basically ignore, not worth the mana, not worth the global, so I like to see them targeting that. Evoker, Preservation. Developer's notes. Preservation has been underutilized lately, in part due to the range restrictions of the specialization. To help compensate for that, we're increasing the healing and defensiveness of Preservation so they can traverse the battlefield more easily and safely. Sounds great. Yeah, Evoker range, Preservation Evoker range already got buffed towards the end of beta to be longer than Devastation and later Augmentation's range would be, but it is still especially bad on Prez to be griefed out of range, right? And especially this tier, there's a lot of fights where, you know, if you had a Preservation Evoker in your team, you would feel the range badly. So let's see what they're doing here. Time of Need clone's overall healing increased by 100%, and the clone Living Flame healing increased by 16%. Okay, it's quite a bit there. Lifegiver's Flame is being minorly buffed here, so it's going up to 80% at 2 points instead of 70% on that. Okay. Inherent Resistance reduces magic damage taken by 8% for 2 points instead of 4% for 2 points for Preservation Evoker. So that's a lot. That's 4% more magic DR. That is a lot. And Fizz as well is something that Prez already does pretty well against. It's a pretty armored spec, right? It's a mail wearer, so that's really big. I mean, this is a lot of stuff that killed Preservation Evoker on the margins is gonna no longer kill them. Attune to the Dream increases healing done and received by 3 to 6% for 2 points, which used to be 4% for 2 points for Preservation Evoker. So this is just a flat. I mean, you always took Attune to the Dream, I believe, on Prez. Not only is this 2% more healing than roughly, it's also 2% more healing received, which healing received is a pretty bad defensive stat. You'll see it on a few tank trees and this Attune to the Dream node. I think the Druid class tree has some of it as well. But typically it's not something that, you know, if you were ranking defensive stats, you would put increased healing received way below stuff like reduced damage taken, right? Stamina, you know, avoidance, all those sorts of defenses. So it's nice, but that's a small part of it. The main thing here is that this is functionally, you know, a 2% increased healing done, 4% reduced magic damage taken, and then buffs to Time of Need and Lifegiver's Flame. So, you know, I'm glad to see them targeting Prez. This is a pretty minor suite of buffs to them, but these two in particular are very broad and will affect the entire class or the entire spec in all forms of content, I think, pretty nicely. So, yeah, good to see. I mean, Prez really, really fell off over the past 2 seasons. So, my suspicion is that they need more, but I'm never one to criticize a small step in a right direction for being too small. I'm just happy that they're stepping in that direction and hopeful that we'll see more if I'm right and they do need more. I guess one thing that I'm not sure how much to evaluate is how big specifically this time of need change is going to be. All right, Hunter. We are seeing Hunter buffs to Marksmanship and Survival. Both Marksmanship and Survival are getting 3% Aura buffs, which these specs are not actually bad. Neither MM nor Survival are bad. They're just overshadowed this tier by Beast Mastery, but it's nice to see them getting a little bit of a buff. I think reasonably close to being competitive options. Genuinely, for a while, I recommended to people to have their Hunters play Survival on Tindral if it made them go from like 7 to 8 melee back when that was the breakpoint that mattered, and probably is still worth it if it makes you go from 5 to 6 melee. But well, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure that's that important anymore. But it used to be really important on that fight. And yeah, these specs. I mean, again, they're not bad. So I don't think they need much more than a couple of little bumps. Maybe this is enough. Maybe a couple more like this, and maybe also Beast Mastery nerfs. Oh, Beast Mastery already got nerfed, but it's definitely not one of the most egregious specs out there anymore, but it's definitely still very, very good. Mage. So Mage, we're seeing frost buffs here. Flurry damage 25%, Water Bolt and Water Jet, which are your pet damage sources, 25%, Frostbolt 10%, and Ice Lance 5%. This is quite a lot. This is quite a bit for Frost Mage. If you look at the sources of Frost Mage's damage, a lot of it's going to come from obviously this tier like Glacial Spike, your tier set, that kind of stuff. But a substantial amount is going to be Frostbolt, Ice Lance, your pet damage going up. Flurry, not a particularly high damage source, but 25% buff to it is something. So I suspect this is a nice few percent here for Frost Mage, and indexes the power a little bit away from the set bonus and a little bit away from the Glacial Spikes, which is probably healthy for especially PvP, I guess, but also realistically, like that's probably just good. Yeah, and again, I'm glad to see Frost Mage getting buffed here. Another spec that is not bad, but is not, it's not. I don't think it's bad to. I don't think it's bad to buff specs that are in the position of Marksmanship, Survival, and Frost Mage. Like, I think these are specs that are good enough that if you are a mage or a hunter that really prefers those specs, you are probably already playing it. But that doesn't mean that it's not right to give them a little bit of a buff, because stuff like Fire, Beast Mastery are, doing really well, and these kind of underperform in that light. Okay, Mistweaver. Now, these were mostly buffs up above here. Mistweaver is being nerfed. So Mistweaver is getting a 6% reduction to all healing. This doesn't affect PvP combat, though, so not nerfed in PvP there. And in fact, it looks like these buffs affect them in PvP. So they're getting only buffed in PvP. But basically in PvE, they're getting nerfed by 6% of their healing, but then Shaylin's Gift, Jadefire Stomp, and Expel Harm are being buffed by 6% back to compensate a little bit. This effectively means that, like, all of the other healing that Mistweavers do, Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, all of those sorts of things, their mastery, those effects are getting nerfed by 6%. Now, I am a little bit conflicted on this. On the one hand, Mistweaver is good this season. It's very good in Raid. If you're trying to do Mythic Fire Act progression without a Mistweaver, you're signing yourself up for a much harder experience than if you have a Mistweaver. But that's mostly just because their ability to, like, Life Cocoon, Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist on a tree ad and heal it to full in a couple globals is really impressive and really powerful. And that's still going to be true after this. In M+, Mistweaver is this season one of the good healer options. It's not dominant. Resto Druid, Disc Priest, also both really, really good. Mistweaver is one of the specs that people are using to heal high keys with, but it's not one of those seasons where there is a dominant healer that's like over the rest of the field by a lot. Mistweaver is just one of the good options, and I do empathize with Mistweaver mains, because it does feel like if you're a Mistweaver and you're like maybe even slightly OP, you're going to get nerfed. But then you can look at Resto Druids or Holy Paladins that can be very OP for a whole season and often not get nerfed, and I do empathize with Mistweavers there, so I feel, it feels kind of rough to see this. I think that with Mistweaver, they should probably be looking at reducing the amount of single target healing that they can do, to their Enveloping Mist target, and not hurting the rest of the healing of the kit at all. That would be what I would be proposing if I was looking at it, but I haven't looked into it too deeply, so that's just kind of my gut feeling about it. Subtlety Rogue, 6% reduction to the damage of Eviscerate. This is good. Rogue is OP. Rogue is very OP. Rogue has been OP for all season. They've nerfed it a little bit here and there, but it's really, really OP still. In fact, if we look at Warcraft logs, you look at some damage stats from this tier so far, right? Like, pretty much any week you looked at this thing, there'd be a yellow bar of some kind at the top. You can kind of change this to, like, whichever button you want, and there's going to be a yellow bar at the top. So what I would say is if you're a rogue and you're sad to see this, if you're a sub-rogue and you're sad to see 6% Eviscerate damage reduction, you should probably be happy. You should be probably happy that you're only seeing a 6% Eviscerate damage reduction, because more would probably be fair. And then finally, Ellie Shaman. Ellie Shaman is getting a 3% increase to all damage. Ellie Shaman has had a little bit of a rough identity this patch. They had to buff Earthquake's damage by a huge amount, and sort of the sources of damage of this spec are in a weird place that, with the way their set bonus works out, you have this weird rotation where a lot of stuff that you're used to pressing, you kind of just don't. You kind of just press Lava Burst, and you press Lava Burst again, and you keep pressing Lava Burst a lot, which is fun for a lot of people, but the rotation has really boiled into this weird place. So they've taken some effort to fix that with earlier changes, again, buffing the damage of Earthquake. They buffed the damage of Earthquake by 50%, I believe, in a previous change. This isn't that, though. This isn't anything to mess with the rotation, any further attempts to fix that. Instead, it's just saying, look, the spec's a little underperforming. We're going to give you some more all damage. The problem is that even though Ellie Shaman, maybe is underperforming if you're looking at overall, it is a spec that has a niche at which it is really compelling, right? Like if we look at Council of Dreams, Ellie Shaman is one of the specs that benefits from this sort of fight. You can look at also an M+, a fight like Volcall, a fight like Ancient Protectors. These are fights where Ellie Shamans really go off. So it's tough whenever you are aura buffing a spec like that, because if you're like an Ellie Shaman main, it's kind of nasty. That is always going to be something that limits how much Blizzard is willing to like buff your spec, is the fact that you do have a niche at which you're so strong. All right, let's move over into the PvP tuning post. So this post, I guess let's open it on the actual Warcraft page, because it's worth taking a look here. Yeah, spec by spec, because so I'm not 100% sure. Everything that's under this player versus player line, like I wonder if these are only going to affect things in PvP. The thing is, like, some of these notes mention a PvP reduction, right? Or they say that something's damage is increased only in PvP. But then some of these notes, like these Havoc Demon Hunter survivability notes, don't have that text, which makes me think that these will also affect PvE. So I'm going to talk about these changes like they will affect PvE, but I'm not confident about that, and I'm making this video like right as these notes have come out, so at some point there may be clarification issued on that. Do check into that. I'll try and put a comment or pin a comment down below that clarifies on that. But if these changes are coming to PvE as well, we are going to see some nerfs to the general passive durability of the Havoc Demon Hunter here, with Demon Hide, Scars of Suffering, Illidari Knowledge, and Will of the Illidari all getting cut in either half or down to 60% effectiveness. In addition, we are seeing the Essence Break damage bonus for Chaos Strike or Blade Dance being reduced to 40%, was 50% as well, which is a damage nerf, but these ones are all... Well, I guess the versatility bonus is also a damage nerf, but mostly these are damage reduction nerfs. Then a PvP change, some Druid changes here, which are PvP, 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 all PvP. Hunter changes, which are all PvP. Mage, PvP talents, PvP combat, everything. So yeah, I mean, everything else in here specifies PvP combat, right? Like every single other change in here, as far as I can see, yeah, all of the other ones say PvP. So really only these 5 changes don't say that, which makes me think they might affect live as well, and this might be some moderate Havoc nerfs. The key level at which you're going to get one shot as a Havoc Demon Hunter may have dropped by 1 against certain abilities, and your ability to survive. Havoc Demon Hunter was sort of this premier DPS that you would assign to be on the wings of Mythic Fire Act intermission because they didn't need healing and they could just stand all far away from everybody. They could pick up one of the first seeds, one of the first corrupted seeds on Mythic Fire Act, and they'd be fine because they're Havoc Demon Hunters. And I suspect that's still probably going to be true. I don't know if this is... I mean, this is a lot of nerfs, right? Like, a lot of their passive survivability is getting hit a lot here, but I think they'll still probably be above average on that front when compared to other classes, even if these changes do come through to PvP or to PvE. And yeah, I mean, it's also a slight damage nerf, but not anything huge here for PvE, I don't think. So interesting. We'll see if these changes are coming to PvE or not. I think they probably are. But yeah, that's the set of class changes that are coming this coming reset. So hope you've enjoyed this video. Sorry, I haven't put out any videos recently. I was out of town for a little while, including when the hero talents dropped. I will probably try and make a video for each of those 8 trees over the next couple of days. And of course, you may notice my tooth is still gone. They're waiting for the thing to heal. They like drilled a screw up in there. They're waiting for that to heal. And then I got a new tooth up there. So that's going to be just like 2 or 3 more weeks. And then hopefully they'll be able to get that done. So yeah, it's been a bit of a month for me, but hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit like and sub and stuff. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.